Welcome to the Logistics Point interviews. We're joined by Bernadette Bulacan, who is the Chief Evangelist at Icertis, and we're going to talk about greenwashing, ESG. Bernadette, thank you very much for joining me. Would you say then is kind of the first step or the first few steps when it comes to reaching that true ESG?
So the first step we see are organizations taking a look at their entire supplier base and seeing who has performed. And so there's going to be a great deal of data about covenants, certifications that are already in those supplier agreements. That is going to give us a base of suppliers that are known, that have been ESG compliant, or overall have a high level of performance. So the second thing we see organizations doing is looking at the covenants, rights, and representations that are in those contracts. And more importantly, they're thinking really innovatively about new types of clauses. For instance, we all know that there's, termination for cause or termination for bankruptcy. One of the things that we see companies exploring is termination if they are able to find another supplier that can produce the same widget greener. Could you imagine? Like, that is a whole new way of thinking of relationships. So organizations are looking at the four corners of their contract and thinking, what new obligations do I need to put in? And it's things like regular provisions of certifications, the audit rights that I've described, the ability to come in and not just look at financial records, but to look and to ensure that the way that you have described this product with our own eyes matches what we see when we conduct that audit. The third thing that we see is you have these obligations, and oftentimes you have agreed to these obligations, you've signed on the dotted line, and again, too often it's just a moment in time. So what we see organizations doing is using technology and AI to ingest those obligations and create workflows. And I think that's the part that is most important. I think too often organizations are looking at those first two steps, kind of understanding their supplier base, and in this point in time, agreeing to certain things. If you are not actively managing that supplier relationship and utilizing all of those tools that you have negotiated for, like the regular reporting certification. This is so important right now because we see the new reporting directives that are available. And again, with allegations of greenwashing, you want to make sure that those claims can be substantiated, that it is evidence-based, and that evidence-based delivery is outlined in your contract.
How should we understand AI? And do you think that people are able to understand it in a way that they can actually benefit from it?
We see organizations absolutely benefiting from it. And that's not just only in the ESG context, but I think that's the beauty of AI when pointed at a very rich data pool. And I often think, again, at these supplier relationships offer so much data about those relationships, those contractual relationships. The only way that you're able to manage all of that data and those relationships is through the power of computing and artificial intelligence to digest that. One of the things that I'm really excited for, especially when I think of contracts and the data pools that we're building, is that contracts have historically been an untapped resource. It's a very inefficient process and truly stuck within the four corners of often paper. And so that is one of the ways that we see supply chain teams and procurement teams really benefiting from artificial intelligence, is that they have structured that data and they have more easily can surface the data that they need. So ESG and all of the new regulations around that just becomes another opportunity for these teams that have historically been buried in paper, once digitized, to be able to surface that right data. The average loss for supply chain disruption has been around $82 million for an organization. And so to the extent that you're able to surface the right data, ensure that you are working with the right suppliers who deliver the right product to the right place at the right time, is incredibly important to any company's bottom line.
When it comes to ESG, obviously being ethical is an important part. So is this something that kind of clashes at the same time? We are using a technology that there are some problems with, maybe we don't fully understand, to reach a more sustainable, in all of its forms, sustainability.
Here at Icertis, we think a lot about ethical AI and how we are using it. We want it to be sustainable. We want it to be fair. We want it to be accurate and eliminate hallucinations and eliminate bias. And one of the things that is one of our principles is that we are surfacing data, and that we have kept humans in the loop. Quite frankly, they are augmented by the AI versus the AI making those decisions. And so I think in order to perform ethically with AI, we continue to see opportunities to keep humans in the loop, and powered by the right data. And it is historically data that they have not had as accessible. And so I think that armed with the right data, they are able to make better decisions about suppliers, and that the good will outweigh kind of the new hurdles and challenges that we've had that are perceived with a new technology.
How much should a company invest, and how much should it expect to gain back from specifically AI in kind of the ESG sector?
I don't think you can put a price on the reputation of your company, because you don't want to be on the front page of the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal. And we know that there are organizations trying to identify bad players, even if it is unintentional, as to bring it back. And so having the right operations is really important. Having evidence and being able to surface that evidence quickly through technology and AI around ESG, ensuring that when you have a supplier base, you can say for certain that they have all agreed to the particular covenants and representations, that you can say on a regular basis that yes, not only culturally, but operationally for ESG, we go and we review all of this, and here is the evidence that we are doing that. It is so important. And secondly, as we see more regulations promulgated, there will be financial consequences and liability for those companies. And so whether it is to protect your reputation, and to ensure compliance, to ensure that you are getting discounts that you have negotiated, or to ensure that in the event that you have to pivot and you're looking for a new supplier, it is so important that you have that contract intelligence available to you. And the only way that you can do that, especially when you're looking at volumes of data, is through the power of AI.
Hey, well, Bernadette, thank you very much for your time, and for everyone watching and listening. You can find more in the description below, and also by subscribing.